Hey, what's going on, beautiful jellyfish? It's Tracy. I haven't sat down and filmed in, honestly, a really long time, and for y'all, like, you've been seeing videos, so it hasn't been relevant to you, but, like, the truth is that I pre-filmed a lot of videos before I went back to work, and so now I have a little bit of time, so I'm gonna jam and pre-film some videos. I want to say two things before we jump into this video. The first thing is I'm sick right now, so if you hear that in my voice, yes, I am sick. I'm sorry. The second thing I wanted to let you know is that I have been streaming a lot on Twitch, and for those who are like, she's streaming Magic, yes. Sorry, I'm not streaming Magic. I don't play Magic online. I much prefer Magic on paper, but I just wanted to let you know that I stream this game called Paladins, which is very similar to Overwatch in a lot of ways, and but I don't know. And I asked Paul, I was like, should I even mention it on YouTube? And I feel weird like tweeting about it, but then he's like, some people just like to watch like the content creator. It's not really about the videos that they produce. For some people, it's not like that, and I totally get that. For some people, they're like, I'll watch you regardless. But I just wanted to let you know that if you do want to follow me, my Twitch is listed in the down bar below, and I always post on Twitter. I don't have a set schedule because my life is not like that. I'm a teacher. My schedule does not work like that. So I just wanted to let you guys know that if you do want to check me out on there, definitely follow me on Twitter because I will be posting that, and subscribe, or whatever the word is, follow on Twitch. I don't know how Twitch works yet. We're not there. But today, so I have my notebook full of magic ideas, which isn't this notebook pretty cool? I think you can like color it in, but I'm not that fancy, so it hasn't been colored in yet. But I wanted to really do this video and talking about our Fetchlands Worth It in EDH. Funny story. Who remembers this? I feel like this is always a game in my videos. Who remembers when I filmed X? Who remembers when I did the video on if Shocklands or Fetchlands worth it in Modern? I want to say the video got demonetized for some reason. I have zero idea why, so there's a solid chance that this video might get demonetized. I have no idea why anything in that video would get like that. Like, why? I don't understand. I'm so confused. But I kind of wanted to like talk about this and kind of give a couple of scenarios and talk about my personal experiences playing with and without Fetchlands, because the whole grand scheme of me and my relation to Fetchlands in EDH is I had Fetchlands left over from Modern, and so did Paul. We combined our Magic collections, which is best thing, because then we just have access to each other's cards and stuff like that. So like I was able to take some Fetchlands that he had, and he was able to take some of mine, and so like it just worked out super well. So I have Fetchlands in some of my decks, and I do want to say that I do have a solid amount. Even if I run Fetchlands, I actually have run a solid amount of alternatives. The main ones are being like Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse. Now, I'm going to be talking at this video at a bunch of different angles, so I guess I'm kind of giving you a solid answer, but I kind of want to give you alternatives, as well as like playing devil's advocate a lot. And I guess these are really, really cheap and expensive options. Now, they're inexpensive for a reason, because no, they're not as good. They're not as good for two reasons. The first reason is that they only get you a basic, so you can't fetch and you can't get your Shocklands with this, and you also can only get a basic. So if you're not running enough basics, these are not going to be good for you. But I just want to do a sub note here and honestly just tell you that there are so many people who don't run enough basics in EDH, and I think specialty lands are really good. I have a lot of specialty lands in my deck, but you honestly need enough basics. I don't really know what the number is, because it really truly does depend on the deck, and it depends on how many specialty lands you have. It depends on how many cards like these you have, because honestly, like, one of the worst feelings in the world is like when someone like Path to Exiles your dude and you like don't have a land. It's just like it's such a bad feeling, and like I don't know, maybe it's not like the worst thing ever, but it's just not great. Like I think people just don't run enough basics, and like there's so many effects that shut off like non-basic lands, so it's just really important to run enough basics. So anyways, that was a really long-winded explanation, but with that being said, I run both of these cards in all of my decks, so I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Even in the decks that I run Fetchlands in. So I do really like these cards. The other thing too is not only do they get basics, but they're slower, right? Because they can't tap for anything unless you have an effect that says your lands can tap for anything. And the land that you get comes into play tapped. Now, the overarching kind of thing I really just want to get out in this video, and I think is something that I myself have not perhaps done the best job at explaining to you guys, is that my EDH group is not the most competitive EDH group in the world. I have my one friend Chuck, who I filmed his Tesa EDH deck tech on, so if you guys haven't seen that video, definitely check that out. But I filmed it with him, and just of seeing that deck, and that's not even one of his most competitive decks, he runs he has a lot of really, really competitive decks, and he's easily my most competitive friend in terms of the decks that he plays, and the power level that he plays, and he has a lot of expensive cards that makes his deck work better. Now, with that being said, he is most definitely not like all my friends. I love playing with Chuck, and he's like one of my really good friends here in Austin. But he does not represent my play group at all. So I play with a lot of people who play at a very different power level than me, and I think that's something that when I sometimes film videos and I come across his cards and some people are like, those cards are really bad, or like, why aren't you playing with this? And it's like, I don't know if the message has been being clear, that's what my power level is like in our group, and I don't know if I could give a number. I think that's really, really challenging because my 7 could look different from your 7, right? It's very challenging to really determine, those types of things, and I always have a really hard time with that. Maybe it's easier for some people, but I think the main point that I'm really trying to get here is, if you're playing in a really, really high power level group, y'all, these cards are not going to work for you. You need Fetchlands. And I think this is a really easy way to determine, once you get your groove in your play group, I think it makes it a lot easier. And I also think one thing too that's really cool, and I might film a separate video on this, but it's totally okay to have a different power level of decks. I would personally say that I think my Omnath deck is probably my best EDH deck because it's very consistent because it does the same thing. With that being said, I don't always necessarily like to play Omnath all the time because it does do the same thing. And 2, it is my most competitive deck, so if I'm playing in a game where I know the power level is a little bit lower, I will not bring out Omnath because that's just who I am as a person, and that's just what I do when I play EDH. So that's kind of my whole spiel, but I can film a separate thing if y'all are interested in that. But yes, I think that's knowing your group and knowing if these cards are going to be appropriate, I think is the best way that I can frame it. So I think the main thing that I really love about Fetchlands is that it does a couple of things. So first off, it thins out your deck. Now you might be like, there are so many cards in my deck, it doesn't matter. It does. It's I think it's just one thing that you can ignore. Now, does it matter more in a 40 card deck or a 60 card deck? Yeah, sure. Deck thinning is so much more relevant there. It still matters a lot in EDH. The cards that you draw are incredibly precious. And so I think it's really, really important to give you that opportunity. And that's why I do like cards like Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse, because they do that. There's also a bunch of cards like this too that do very, very similar things that I haven't mentioned. Anyway, so yes, it thins your deck, and it also, what does this say? I swear, every time I do this, I made these notes 117 years ago, so I'm like, lower costs, what? I don't even know what I just wrote in there. But so it also makes it so you're able to get your colors. And this is a really, really important thing because you want to be able to make sure that you're casting your spells very efficiently, and you want to make sure you're able to cast them, because let's be real, there's nothing worse than having a hand of cards and you're not able to cast this really, really important spell with double blue because you only have one island. It's a very, very unfortunate feeling. So for that reason, Fetchlands are extremely good. You pay 1 life. It honestly doesn't matter. Your life total just doesn't really matter in EDH. I feel like that's a thing that I've seen a lot of newer players is they're very protective of their life total, and they're like, I can't take damage, and it's your life total's a resource. It's okay. Fetching is 100% reasonable because it thins your deck, so it gives you a better chance to draw your better cards. Especially if you're in a situation where you're fetching, you're most likely not really wanting to draw lands. For the most part, you're probably wanting to draw other better cards that are actually gonna do more things. So I would say too long didn't read version is yes, if you can't afford them, or you're in between trading for a fetch land and some other valuable card that's going to make your deck better, that's a really, really difficult situation to be in. I guess that would really totally depend on the trade, but honestly, I think that this is a card worth saving for, and it's definitely a card worth purchasing. Do I think it's the be-all, end-all? If you don't have Fetchlands, are you gonna just lose every game of EDH? Again, I think that's really dependent on your play group. That's a really hard question to answer. In my play group specifically, no, but it definitely enhances your experience. And I think if you're and I've talked about this a little bit, but I made like a wish list of all the Magic cards that I want in like foils, but then also like cards that I just want in general. It's been really, really helpful because it's been able to give me a chance to really see like what cards I want, and it's really, I would really, really recommend this because I think if you're like me and you're playing Magic for the long haul and you know that there's cards you want, I would really recommend that because it just makes things like so much easier. It's on a Google Doc. It's like makes things. It's so smooth. It's one of the best. It took me. It was a very, very long project, but it was a worth it project. So it really, really helped out. But I think it's easy to like have those cards on your wish list. I also think Fetchlands make honestly like really good gifts. Like if someone were to like give me a gift and it was like a Fetchland, I would just be really excited because it's a very universal thing. Like everyone can really benefit from it, and I just think it's a deck that enhances. It just makes it better. If you're in a play group where people are trying to kill you on turn 4. Evolving Wilds is not going to be your best answer, but having this as an option is going to be really, really beneficial, and I would just say really, really works. I think if you're in a slower type of setting, I think these cards are totally acceptable, but even if you are in a slower play group, these cards definitely can't hurt. So yeah, guys, that was it. I just wanted to do this kind of quick sort of thing on like analysis because I feel like I like the things like talking about like higher price point cards and like talking about if they are worth it because I think it's a really important thing to know. I think it's really easy to be really skeptical of cards and be like, is that worth it? Is this something that people are just kind of like hyping up, or is that something I should really invest money in? Because honestly, for a lot of people, you know, they can't just like dump thousands of money on Magic cards, so it's like they have to kind of budget and like pick and choose like what cards they are interested in getting, and this is a really, really good card to have on your wish list to make your deck better. So guys, that was it for this video. Thank you so much for hanging out, and like I said at the beginning of the video, definitely make sure to follow me on Twitter and Twitch if you want to be notified whenever I stream, and yeah, that is all I have to say, so thanks for hanging out. Bye.